flaw us in nihilification is the act of estimating something as worthless. Avatar Into the Inferno, the epic conclusion to the epic trilogy of epic Avatar The Last Airbender games, with each game just coming out 1 year after the other and the previous entry, Burning Earth, being a massive improvement. I can't wait to see what they'll think up next. Two versions of this game were released. The DS version was not developed by channel favorites Toshi Software, but a different developer, Half Brick Studios. You use a stylus for bending and solving puzzles. The game has a more cutesy, chibi art style to make it more appealing for a younger audience. You can bloodbend in this. Then there's the Wii version, which was developed by THQ, Studio Australia, masters of the Avatar video game. Into the Inferno came out at the peak of the Nintendo Wii's popularity. It made sense to develop your kids' game for the casual family console. What that means is motion controls. Let me start off by saying I don't hate motion controls or controller gimmicks when they're done well. Motion controls can add a level of interactivity that analog controllers could only dream of. That being said, the biggest change this time around was getting rid of the combo-based dodge-focused combat of the previous game and replacing it with button mashing and waggling the Wiimote. You control the elements directly, moving them around and hitting stuff, or using your bending to solve puzzles and platform around. This works fine. It adds a level of interactivity to the bending and is better than the alternative in previous games. There's just such an emphasis on using the Wii pointer that other aspects have been ignored. The only way this is mildly palatable is the fact that Nintendo's Wii pointer is very precise and easy to use, so obviously I played the PS2 version. There was another. The PS2 version is exactly the same as the Wii version, but uses the 8-axis analog stick to control the pointer, and also, it sucks. This dropped 2 weeks after the Wii version and is borderline unplayable. You can't use bending during combat because it's too imprecise, and you can't complete puzzles because they're mostly timing based, timed around the Wii pointer's precision speed rather than the DualShocks. All you can really do is a single button combat, which is mainly spamming the AoE dive kick and waiting for enemies to get up, because they're invincible when prone. Now that that's out of the way, what's new? Ember Island acts as a hub world where you can buy upgrades and gawk at concept art. There's no skill points or character stats of any kind. You gain new abilities by collecting coins and scrolls. You can go back and replay any level at any point from the overworld map, which is you flying around on Appa. There's an air glider minigame which feels like a late addition. You never use the air glider in the main game. It feels like a bonus level, or they're just prototyping something and left it in the game. You fly around the island shooting at balloons. Aang has this cool run animation when he's hovering over something. Credit where credit's due, there's plenty of playable characters and they all get different outfits for different levels, which was cool, and this flying minigame is just fine. The game starts off with a
Previously on Avatar.
It retcons the end of the last game with the actual ending the show had, which is pretty well animated, I might add. Aang wakes up on a Fire Nation ship that's under attack. You can play this game in single player or multiplayer couch co-op. This time around, they got rid of the dumbass AI partner. Because of the control you have with bending, the game world is more interactable, with objects moving and breaking when you do your bending around them. Samurai Momo acts as your tutorial guide because the game is very complicated. They show you a cutscene every now and then, but most of the guidance is optional. If you get stuck, you can run over to Momo. Momo mode does not make a return. Once you get up onto the deck, there's the first of many set pieces. A duel against an enemy ship. They launch boulders at you and Aang needs to catapult them back. The boulders only hang around for a little while and are hard to place. You all seem to put them out by water bending. Also, you're currently being attacked. There's no real healing in this game. No health points. You get hit, then you get hit. But you probably won't because you can easily swat enemies away. You arrive at the Fire Nation's fishing village that's been heavily polluted. There's a couple of physics puzzles putting your bending to the test. Water bending, for example, has the option of freezing water to make ice blocks, and can also be used for cutting through bamboo.
Water. Is there anything it can't do?
I don't know, Katara, bring your mom back. You make your way into the factory, which is the same room copy-pasted 3 times, and has what I like to call the soft lock puzzle. The final puzzle in this area has you shifting water from different buckets. These buckets, however, have a leak and gradually lose the water you put in them. There's no real solution, this is a straight-up skill check. You have to select water and move it to the correct bucket. Careful not to hit the other bucket, because you'll have to start again. Run over to the other side of the room, do exactly the same thing, and repeat until both buckets are as full as possible. Then also hit the switch, which takes a second to activate. It's rough, buddy. This took me like 20 minutes. The factory explodes and the boss fight emerges. This dude is just a regular enemy with more HP. You can just bully him until he keels over. There's also 6 jet skis you have to deal with by creating an ice block in the way. It's Sokka and Toph for the Day of the Black Sun. Now Sokka isn't a bender and the game compensates for this by making him incredibly overpowered. Landing a hit with his boomerang stuns an enemy, letting you take them out with 1 hit. This really speeds up combat. I only swapped to Toph for puzzles. Also, the Day of the Black Sun is when firebenders lose their bending. The game has non-bender enemies. I don't know why they didn't just use them. There's another Another escort catapult set piece. Toph needs to reassemble the catapult while Sokka watches. I genuinely don't know what Player 2 Kid would do here. Once the gang make it to the throne room, Azula is waiting there with a Dai Li. This boss fight is cool. You sort of counter bend against the Dai Li, making shields and dropping the earth from under their feet. It's got the same problem previous games had where you're just reacting rather than taking the initiative. You wait for the Dai Li to do their thing for a long ass time and then it's your turn. Sokka and Zuko head to Boiling Rock Prison, which means stealth, by which I mean Metal Gear. The firebending is Shyamalan inspired, whereas Zuko needs existing fire to bend. This is fine, but Aang can bend air whenever he wants. I don't get why Zuko can't. Oh, the puzzles are built around moving the flame around. There's this elevator puzzle where you need to preserve the flame as you move upwards. You have to quickly redistribute the fire, otherwise the fans will blow it out. When you reach the very top of the final fan, you need to quickly swap to Sokka, hit the fan with your boomerang, swap to Zuko, select the flame, and save it. Otherwise, it's back to the bottom. This would be easier in co-op, but it's still pretty clunky. I'm not sure how this game is intended to be played. If it's single player, a lot of these puzzles are really difficult to do by yourself, and there's no AI companion to pull their weight. If it's in co-op, the other half of the time, Player 2 Kid is just standing there, watching. None of it really makes sense, or works. A gondola chase set piece. It's a runaway gondola in a bunch of arenas with progressively more numerous enemies. You just have to beat them up as fast as possible. With Sokka, this is easy, albeit tedious. Once you escape, you get attacked by Azula and Ty Lee. You only fight one at a time, with Azula hanging back and launching fireballs at you while Ty Lee tires herself out. Then you're just dodging Azula's laser beam. After you escape those two, Toph and Sokka fight Sparky Boom Boom Man. Now this is a good boss fight. Toph has to guard against explosions with her earthbending, while Sokka has to hit Combustion Man right before he attacks. There's a small arena, multiple phases. You can build a wall wherever both players are working together. Stuff like this is pretty great, and there's not enough of it in this game. What there is enough of is the Western Air Temple. Aang and Zuko for this one. Aang can firebend now, making Zuko irrelevant. Most of the puzzles here are airbending ones, so Player 2 Kid just follows the avatar around. This Simon Says windpipes to open most doors, and then we get to the temple puzzle. Okay, the soft lock puzzle made sense at least. Pretty simple. You did two similar puzzles before, and here's one with added difficulty. This temple puzzle proves there is no god. There's no rhyme or reason to this. There's no walkthrough or guide explaining how one is supposed to come to the conclusions you have to solve this. Anyone in the comments or past employees of THQ Studio Australia, if you can explain the solution of this puzzle to me, please? You owe me this at least? The puzzle. You walk into the room and there's 4 statues, each statue holding 1 tablet. Each tablet has 4 numbers. Under each statue are 4 objects, each object corresponding to the 4 elements.
Just interact with the objects in the order the numbers are in.
You walk up to the air shrine. 1, 2, 3, 4. Interact with the pipes. 1, 2, 3, 4. It works. Huh, I guess I'll do the same for the rest. Nope. Also, this is timed. Even in co-op, Zuko could only do the fire shrine. The placement of the water source at the water shrine is right between the buckets, so it's really easy to accidentally put water in the wrong bucket, forcing you to start again. Did I mention this is timed, so you have to do all 4 all again? But what's the solution, I hear you say? Simply assume that the earth and water tablets are swapped. So the number order above the water shrine corresponds to the earth shrine, and so on.
So the fire shrine is the same?
Nope, it's not swapped with the air number, it's not the number that's right above it. Also, the fire placement, same problem as the water shrine. I thought maybe it's mirrored to the air numbers, to 4, 3, 2, 1. Nope, I got the solution by entering every possible combination. Where's the puzzle? There's no clues or breadcrumbs to follow. There's no precedent. What can men do against such reckless hate? Ah! The rest of the game is 2 more boss fights. First up is Azula. There's nothing for Zuko to do here. Katara has to douse the flames, opening Azula up for attack. Now for the final fight against Ozai, the epic conclusion. They went old school for this boss fight. It feels ripped right out of the last game. Ozai throws a bunch of stuff at you for what feels like forever. There's every element in the arena. Ozai will tire himself out eventually, and Aang will do the thing. And that was Avatar Into The Inferno for the PS2. This blows. The Wii version is easier to control, but that doesn't change the rest of the game. The motion controls have as much depth as the Nintendo's petting minigame. What's left is an underbaked action-adventure game. It's not built around co-op or single player. The combat is shallow and the puzzles are some of the worst I've ever seen. This is such an absurd trilogy. The first game, I didn't expect them to try. They went out of their way to make a fully fledged RPG. The second game, I didn't expect them to improve, cut out what didn't work and flesh out what did. And this game, I didn't expect it to suck.
What about you, Avatar? What are your plans?
You know, I'm not sure. But what I am sure of is that things are definitely looking up.